you can see the elevation, the internal elevation of the kitchen projected directly above that kitchen area. But I want to do the remaining elevations, and so I want to do the elevation projected to the right to begin with. And so I might just draw a symbol just to indicate that, so you can see what they look like as well. And so I'm using just the circle tool to do that, and then I'm going to click a point to the right, and then coming out you can see I'm just drawing my eye to begin with. Well, actually I just need to think about the size of my circle. So if we're doing this at 1 to 50, well, we probably wouldn't typically indicate the elevations at this scale. We'd have a detailed plan which would indicate the elevation directions. But again, just thinking about this at this scale, if we do a 200mm radius circle, then at 1 to 50, that's going to be 4mm across, which is probably an okay size. So I'll just type that in, 200. And I'll go onto my annotation layer and move the circle onto that layer as well. So drawing now a line from the centre, I'm just going to show you a little trick to get the arrow to look nice on this sort of symbol. So the trick there is to draw from the centre point, and then I'm going to turn polar on, polar tracking, and I'm going to make sure it's set to an increment of 45. So I've got it on 15, which divides into 45. So that's what I want. That means I can draw up at 45 degrees and get the intersection with the circle. Now I'm going to come down 45 degrees and just finish anyway. So what I was trying to get there, if you remember your maths, is the derivative, or essentially, sorry, no, it's not the derivative, that's the derivative of the tangent. So a line tangential to this curve. Don't worry about all the maths of it, you know what it looks like. It's a line that's going to blend smoothly into this circle, which can be a difficult thing to get otherwise. So that's a little tip to give you those things when you need them. I've deleted the first line, because now I'm going to use mirror. And with the second line selected, I'll click the mirror button, and then go to the quadrant or the centre on the circle. And then I'm going to come across to the left and do a straight horizontal line. That's my mirror plane. So you can see now it's flipping the line over that plane. If I come left or right, it'll be the same. So a horizontal line all the way, and so I'll click to finish that mirror line, and you can see it just temporarily highlights the original line to ask you if you want to erase that object. So just watch out for that. It can look like it's gone wrong, but it's actually doing what it's supposed to. And so you can see there, again, you ask this question, and if you want to erase the source object, you can obviously say yes, but I want to keep it, so I could click on the no button down the bottom, but you can see we've got n in brackets. And when you have that option in the brackets, those angled brackets, at the end, you can always press enter just to accept that. So I've got my mirrored line, which gives me a decent arrowhead, and I'll then use fillet to join those together. And so that's a standard way of showing an elevation on a plan with an arrow like that, and we'll put a reference for that later, just some numbers. And then I can now mirror that to, copy that first. But I'm going to use rotate to copy it instead. So I can obviously copy this with the copy tool, but I want to rotate it at the same time. So I'm going to use rotate, and then the base point is going to be the centre. And I'm going to then use the copy option, and using the mouse just snap so that it's going directly above. And then I can do the same thing to copy it below, or I could use mirror again and do a mirror line. So those are the three elevations we should need. Has anyone noticed in the brief, actually, if you're asked to do an elevation of this wall, you shouldn't need one, but look, it's not a hard thing to do. Actually, it wouldn't hurt to indicate if you've got a splashback or any pulling on the walls here, but it probably isn't necessary. So yeah, we'll check up on that, but for now I'll just do those 3 elevations. And so again, you'd have the references in here, and then sometimes on the actual arrowheads as well. And so you've probably seen similar symbols, at least for section lines. You would have seen the section symbol, and so I'm going to do one of those as well, just by copying this part of it, and then with the copy button, I'll click a base point, pick it up, and then I'll place that just to one side of the plan. So just trying to get the placement right there. You can see the angle is making it difficult. It's trying to snap to an angle that I don't want. I'm going to turn polar off there. Polar tracking. And now I can place it at any angle. Okay, so now I can draw a line from the, again, from the centre of the quadrant of this circle, straight across. With ortho or polar on, again I can make that a straight line. And then, again selecting the circle and the lines that I want, in this case to mirror. Again, click the mirror button. This time I'm going to use the midpoint of that line I've drawn and give a mirror axis that's vertical. So before I was using a mirror axis that was horizontal, this time it's vertical, so I'll flip it over that vertical axis to the left. If I was drawing up or down, either way it'd be a vertical axis. So I'll just click again to finish drawing that axis, and you'll see it'll give you that option to erase source objects, and I'll press enter again to say no. Then finally I'll use fillet to join these lines together at the end. It should be extended there. You could extend that one just using extend. And then again, same on the right. I should have done that before mirroring, but it's doesn't have to do it now. And then with extend, this will be my edge, enter, and then I can choose the object I want to extend. Okay, so then I can just introduce a couple of other commands which may help you a little bit, like the break command. So this is under modify. Whenever you need to break a line at a point that you choose, if you don't have a line like you would with trim, with break you can just choose an object and then just choose somewhere else that you want it to break. You can see there it's trying to snap to the end, so I'll turn object snap off and just try and pick without that happening. So that's giving me a rough break in this section line so that I can not have the line through the middle, which is an important thing at this point. So finally now I'll just move the symbol for my elevation into the kitchen area. So that should do for now. Probably swap the text and the symbol around later, but for now that's okay, it's pointing in the right direction. And then while I'm at it, I can update this hatch to remove these objects. So I'll do that by just double clicking on the hatch. That'll take me to this ribbon that you can see has the option to select boundary objects. In other words, I can just click on that and choose all of those lines and the circle. Just come to the bottom. Enter. And so you can see there it's picked up those objects, but it's also trying to hatch in what's called an island. In other words, there's a second boundary inside. And that's a standard way of doing a hatch. But when you don't want that, you can always turn that off if you go here to the associative options, and you can just set it to auto island detection. course it isn't working properly. Let's just make sure it's picking that up. Okay, sometimes to make it recognise that, you just need to use pick points again and redo, see if you can redo the boundary. Yeah, it's got an issue with the error with the boundary there. That's okay. So you can go to remove the boundary, and then just remove all of those objects and start again. Okay, so now back with pick points again. Let's try choosing them there. Hatching, you've got to play around a bit sometimes. And when that happens, there we go, you can see it's going just to the inside. I'm going to delete that one, and then just click on the hatch button, and choosing inside that area, you can see it's doing a much better job now. But it's important when you do this that you set it to outer island detection first, but we'll try and pick up the inside. And again, remember, so it's good to see this again, it's just the same as last week, user defined, and then the scale is essentially the spacing, and then double option gives you the cross hatching. So there we are, I've got my tiling updated, and now I want to start projecting this new elevation. So over to the right, you've got the thing that looks like a compass. It's actually a view cube, but we're seeing it from above. So if you accidentally click on the wrong part, if you click on one of the corners, you'll see it will go to the 3D view. But don't panic, you can easily go back to the top view, and it's back to normal. And then to control these view directions, you can use the compass points, but for now we don't even need to go to those. We can just rotate the view using the arrows in the corner, the very corner, and that'll just flip it around, viewed from above, which is exactly what we want here. So you can see that, again, using the top view always. So if you're not sure, make sure it is on top. Really important. And then again, you can simply rotate around until you get the angle that you want. So here now I can project up to draw this side of the kitchen. To begin with, just use the same layers as you are for the plan. So I'll draw a line from the corner there, so I need object snap on. And now I'll come up just a fairly rough distance, because then I need to draw another line, and so I'll just check which lines. Oh yes, I did for the floor layer. Okay, so I have made one extra layer that you may not have had for the plan for my floor. Okay, so I've made that floor layer, and I'll use that to draw a line across just up above my plan where I want the elevation to start. So just coming across here, and it's essential that that line is straight, so it has to be a horizontal line. Polar or ortho need to be on. And then again, going back to the wall layer, I can draw a line from the other corner of the room. Come up. We decided on a height for the kitchen last week, I can't remember it, so I'll just measure that. Now, measuring the corners on this elevation, and it is probably 3 metres. Yep, 3 metres. So here I'll offset 3000 to get the ceiling. And so now just with fillet, I can join those lines together. Checking, of course, that the radius is 0. Really important that they do this join at a corner. And then you can project lines with, again, the layer from the plan. So drawing a line from the corner of the bench there. It'll be exactly the same as what's in the earlier video when I was projecting from the other object or the other elevation. So here, just come up, again, make sure it's a straight line, so I can then offset the floor, your bench height, 900 mil. From the floor line, come up, put that line straight onto the built-in layer, offset the bench thickness, which I'm just going to make 40 mil. straight away I'll fill up those lines together. So here, that's the side. Now, you've got to decide where this elevation is going to cut through and whether you'll be drawing this part of the cabinet in projection or being cut through. I'd say it probably makes sense to have it in projection because the other side is going to be cut no matter what. And that way you can do an outline of the fridge. So we'll look at that afterwards, but for now, I'm just going to flip that over the other side using mirror. So I'm going to select those three lines, left to right, and then using mirror, I can just get the midpoint from one of these lines, either the floor or the ceiling, and come straight down to the midpoint above or below to get a vertical line on my axis. Again, enter to keep this source object, in other words say no, I don't want to erase them. And then I can again project the rest of the lines from here to get my cabinet as it would be in section. But if you remember, I drew it earlier in the previous elevation. So I can copy that. So I'll show you a few tricks to make that easier. So again, I'm going to select these lines left to right to get just the ones inside my window. And then using copy, I'll pick it up on the corner below the bench. And then come to the corner below the bench. Now you can see it's at a completely different angle and it's also flipped. That's fine. Okay, so now using rotate, bring that around from this, again, same base point. I'll click there, and then because ortho's also polar's on, so I can snap to the angle I want, which is basically flipping it so that it's standing upright again. Rotating it so it's standing upright. Now I want to flip those lines so they mirror under the bench, and again I'll select them left to right using mirror, flip those, and then this time I'll say yes, I want to erase source object. So now I just want some of those lines flipped over to get the elevation. So from the outside we'd only see these three lines. So again, I'll use mirror now that they're selected. Down, get a vertical line, and so I'll use fillet and to join. Okay, so that's as it would be viewed from the side. And then if you think about the layers again, I've got this built-in projection layer, which is again for things that aren't cut. So I'll change them onto this layer. Okay, I'm going to draw a line. Also, I'm going to extend these lines across. Again, with fillet. So notice how these lines are a different layer because they need to be heavier. The yellow lines need to be heavier line weight than the orange lines. So because they're on a separate layer, we can easily set that in the layers. We can set that yellow layer to be heavier. Okay, so then we need to know the number of doors there to draw those in. So I'll just extend the line across. And this is freezing up. Okay, and then measure that distance, so coming across. You can see it's 2860. So if you can have 400mm doors, that's good. And you can make them any size. There's no reason you can't have a custom sized door. It's a very simple thing to make actually. But again, if you can have them standard size, that's also helpful. So in this case, 2800 is going to divide up into 400 and then we'll be left with 60mm at the end, which is going to be okay if we leave that for a corner door or something like that. So we could offset 400mm from one of these lines. I'll maybe do it from the, let's see. In the end, it's going to depend on your kitchen sink and stovetop layout, and I know that really hasn't been worked out properly yet. So again, for now, I'll just offset lines, maybe from the left, change it onto my projection layer, and then continue offsetting like that. Okay, so you can see there that last line is going to be 40 mil from the corner, but I'd leave that and we'd work out what's happening if there's a corner door there. And so then you should have the kitchen sink and the stove. Well, you probably won't see much of the stove, but the range hood, you will. And definitely the sink, you should indicate the tap and things like that in the elevation. But you'll need to have the symbols for those and set them to your plan first. So for now, that's enough setup for that elevation. And you could then continue around and project at least the elevation for the southern side down below. So again, just flipping it around so that you can project in the direction for that one. And then finally, to do the bathroom elevation, you're obviously going to need the bathroom layout form. And so for that, you've probably seen already, you've got some fairly complex symbols that if you had to draw would be quite a bit of work. So instead for those, you should use what are called blocks. So I haven't used them very much before. Well, have a look in AutoCAD Help. It's got a really good explanation of what they are and all the things you can do with them. But just to show you briefly, you can go to a Home tab, then Insert, and then click on the Insert button. That'll get you started. That's all I want to do here. So I'm going to click the Insert button, and then Browse, and then in the Look In drop down at the top, I'll show you the whole path, P drive, and then EDU, DC Interior Design, and then AutoCAD Library, and then either AutoCAD 2D or Blocks 2D. They both will have all these things that we need. So I'll try Blocks 2D this time. And then in bathroom, we have, again, in WC Pans, Chroma, and which one are we going to use? A Chroma Sovereign plan should do. But you can see there, this has a few different views, which is a bit ordinary. So that's no good. Okay, so we don't have any there that are going to work. This Chroma Sovereign plan actually is the one we want, but it's this file isn't useful, so I'll go to another one that I know will be better. We'll just use either this WC pan or what else have we got? I think that one's the better one. Very traditional. It doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as you use a standard toilet. I'll also show you the bathroom folder in AutoCAD 2D. So there, it's not organised. So you need to just browse alphabetically, and you'll find Chew. They all have Chew at the beginning, and then Chew WC you will find in there. It's going to be under, sorry, it does have a bit of a system. Chew B, the bathroom, and then you'll find the WCs. Okay, so there are quite a few here. I just want to get the most standard one that I can. And these are pretty standard, I think, but no, I think the other one was the best. Yeah, just make sure you do familiarise yourselves a little bit with those libraries, because you don't want to spend hours trying to work out how to draw something that is already there. Yep. Okay, so 002 is the one I'm using. It's up to you though which one you use, doesn't really matter. So WC Pen 002 is mine anyway, and here I'm going to leave insertion point and rotation turned on, and then OK. So notice scale is turned off, but I've got uniform scale turned on. Okay, so then once I click OK, you can see it's come in the right size. If you don't see it on the cursor like that, there's a problem. And then I don't have a plan with me, so can you just remind me where the WC is here? Is it over in this if everyone's got the plan with them. I've got it out. No one's got the plan? Yeah, just if you can tell me where the WC is roughly. Is it down here? Oh yes, but it's down here, so where my cursor is. Yeah, so it's down. Oh, it's in between, right? Okay. All right. Okay. The worst possible place, but anyhow, you can maybe rejig it. So the midpoint there, if that's where it's starting, would be a good base point. The midpoint on the wall, and then if you've got polar or ortho, you can just come straight up and it'll snap to that angle. Right, so then you can just insert the bath and the WC the same way. So they shouldn't be very difficult. Just do those really quickly, and then I'll give you some time to try all these things before we get right into blocks. So yours is 1800, isn't it? Okay, so that's all right. We can use this 1675 and we'll make that bigger afterwards. Or even the 1500 by 750 we'll use, and yeah, we'll make that bigger because it's, even though it's smaller, it's got a better, simpler set of lines. So yeah, I'll just use that one, 1500 by 750. And again, the same options turned on, insertion point and rotation. Okay, and then again, you can just click to place that, snap into a corner, and rotate it with the cursor. So again, it's not difficult. Later on, I'll show you how to stretch that so that it fills up the whole space. You'll need to probably move the WC over afterwards as well, but I'll just leave it there for now, and I'll go and again use insert one more time to get the basin. So I'll just use one of these standard basins for now. And so, again, once I've clicked OK here, you can see I want to place it against this wall, but I don't want it to go to either the midpoint or the corner. So you can see it's not snapping to any other points. It will only go to those points, either the midpoint there, which is the triangle, or the square in the corner, which is the end point. I want to point just roughly in between, but still on the line. So with the object snap button, I'm going to right click. I'm going to turn nearest on. Now this is an option you've probably seen, but maybe haven't known what it is. So when you go to nearest, you'll see it's this sort of hourglass or time symbol. Yeah, hourglass symbol. And so that is the nearest symbol, and it basically will click to the nearest point on any line or other object. But it's rough, so it's not going to be an exact measurement from the corner. But that's not so important. The main thing is that it's touching the line, and that's really all I'm concerned about. So I'm going to click, place it at that nearest point, and then again coming up I can snap to the exact angle I want, which is 90 degrees. So now again with the nearest, if I need to move that across, it's not hard to pick this up. I snap into that grip point and just moving it across, it's still on the line. And then I'll do the same with the WC. There we go. Alright, so that's fine to get you started. You could always put the door in there, and then if you want to start the hatch, before I show you how to adjust the block, you'll see if you try to select that bar and then change it, that it's all going to come up as one object. So I'll show you how to change the size afterwards. But you can easily just draw a line to fill in that gap, and then once the door's there, draw a line for the tiles. So again, if you remember the when you copy and rotate, you can easily bring the doors across. So I just want to show you where the tiles go, and so the door maybe is mirrored, but that's okay, I'll mirror that door afterwards. Because to begin with, I just want to draw a line from the tiles, and just see, well first, have you thought about where that should be? So where the tiles should finish in the door. Exactly, that's right. Yeah. So you want the tiles to go under the door. Now they can actually go the nicest way if you're doing a really high-end job and you want to make it have just the nicest finishes you can. Then the best way is to have the tiles finished under the door edge, so you don't see the tile edge sticking out under the doors, which is a nice way of finishing it off. But this is okay as well. You'll see the tiles, but it's still waterproof, which is the main thing. That's fine for a project like this to do it that way. But otherwise, yeah, it's also good to do it from the midpoint. And yeah, with that setup, then you can easily hatch your tiles because you've got that whole area worked out. And again, you could even start trying to project the elevations from here, but I'll do that in a separate video when we look at more blocks and also doing the blocks in elevation. So hopefully that helps to keep you going. Is there anything else you're not sure about or anything else been holding you up? That's, yeah, no, that's, I thought that'd be a lot. But yeah, it's, just to get you thinking about the next few things.